Senator Destary.
Mr Acting Deputy President, I move business of Senate notice of motion number 1 standing in my name and in the name of Senator Whish-Wilson for today, relating to the disallowance of the Corporations Amendment Streamlining Future Financial Advice Regulation 2014. Mr Acting Deputy President, I rise today to speak about the values that are at the heart of the Australian Labor Party and at the heart of this society. And they are very simple values, but they're values that we will defend in this chamber and out. We are the party of hard-working Australians who are saving for their first home, saving to put their kids into a good school, maybe even, if possible, to a great Australian university, and putting some money aside for their retirement. We are, and have always been, the party of the Australian worker, and we stand proudly in both the Senate and the House to ensure that, as best we can, that the deck is not stacked against our people. We in the Labor Party will always give our voice to preserve the values of fairness and integrity. And today I rise firmly and loudly to put my voice on the record, opposing the government's changes to future of financial advice laws. Mr Acting Deputy President, how did we get here today? We all know that the Abbott government wanted to make some changes to the FOFA legislation, and we in the Labor Party have been very clear that we will negotiate with the government and with our friends on the crossbenches, that we will consult with the financial services and advice industry, that we'll consult with consumer groups and consult with legal experts in order to improve, where necessary, FOFA legislation. But, Mr Acting Deputy President, we will not allow this government to abuse parliamentary process, which is exactly what they've done in this instance. We will not allow this government to introduce changes by stealth, changes that are widely and roundly opposed by consumer and advocacy groups like Choice, like National Seniors, like Council of the Ageing. We will not allow this government to introduce changes at the 11th hour, a move that's been widely criticised by financial journalists and legal academics and even surprised officers of the Senate. Mr Acting Deputy President, as we've heard in this chamber over the past 5.5 sitting days, Senator Cormann and his regulations made with the Governor-General's signature on the 26th of June, these regulations that we do not support and weaken consumer protections came into effect on the 1st of July before anyone outside the government had the opportunity to see them, let alone consult or consider them. As I stand before you today, Senator Cormann's changes are allowing unscrupulous advisors and banks pushing their own products and the hustlers running their get-rich schemes and seminars and all of those con artists who are preying on working Australians to now bypass the best interest duty and to make their income by putting their own financial gain above the interests of consumers. Mr Acting Deputy President, we will not allow this government to erode basic consumer protections. We reiterate, and this was echoed this morning by Choice, by National Seniors, by CODA, and by my friend, yourself, Senator Whish-Wilson, that we will not allow the government to make changes to the FOFA legislation without consulting widely with the financial advice industry, many of whom are concerned about a return to the dark days before FOFA, that without consulting with consumer groups, all of whom are concerned about a return to the horrific losses that happened before FOFA was introduced, without consulting with legal experts, many of whom are concerned about eroding basic consumer protections, and without ensuring that the voices of people who have been the victims who have been the victims of the regime that existed before FOFA. People like my friend Naomi Halpin, who joined us in the Parliament today, who have shared their experiences and their stories here in this place. Mr. Acting Deputy President, that is why we in the Australian Labor Party are in the Senate. That is why we are in this place. And I ask you, and I ask the government, who are they here to represent? Who are they lending their voice to? And who are they standing up for in this chamber? Is it people like Naomi Halpin who are putting away money for their retirement? Is it people like those represented by National Seniors and COTA? People trying to ensure that their kids can have better opportunities? Or are they simply standing up for the banks and financial service industry, trying to take money off the very people who rely on us to make laws, legislation and regulations that are in their best interests? Mr. Acting Deputy President, I know who I will stand up for. I know who I will fight for. The people I represent don't wield power and influence within the Liberal Party. They probably won't be donating to Senator Cormann's re-election campaign. But Mr. Deputy President, we in the Labor Party, we respect those that do, and we will consult with everybody in good faith if we have an opportunity to have a proper debate about reforming FOFA laws. Mr. Acting Deputy President, we will, in good faith, work with all parties to improve FOFA legislation. And I say through you, Mr. Acting Deputy President, to Senator Cormann, that we'll even consider the concerns of some of the interests that he's been protecting. But, Mr. Acting Deputy President, we will not allow this government to ram through changes by stealth, to deliberately restrict this Parliament's ability to scrutinise changes. We will not be bullied into accepting the will of the powerful, and we will not back down. We will not back down from standing up for Australian consumers. I urge the Senate to disallow these regulations.
Thank you, Senator Dastyari.